What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Priceman back in here with another episode for you guys. I always mention back in my younger days, my much younger days, where I had to deal with homelessness. Like, this one wasn't by choice. The second time where I did it, where I lived in my car and stuff, that was by choice. After I left someone, then I was like, then I was stacking up some chips, and then I took a little trip. But that's a different video. But man, I guess I should start from the beginning, man. This is way back when in the day. Have you guys do a little research here. The last time the Syracuse University won the national championship in lacrosse. That's how long ago this shit was. Your boy was looking like Todd in The Fox and the Hound, bro. Shit was something else. And I want to share this to say that things can be overcome even when all hope seems lost. So, man, let's see, where do I begin? So I wasn't making any real money, all right? And wasn't really with this broad. I was bashing this broad, right? And, lost my job, lost my car, because that all of a sudden gets towed. It wasn't repossessed, it was paid off, but when we got no money to take it out, bye, right? And so broad disses me. So I'm all right, whatever. Then I gotta leave the place that I'm in. And then the homies dissed me. They had me feeling like Goob, the adult Goob in Meet the Robinsons, when the dude was talking shit about Goob, and he was hearing that, like, he was off to the side, and he's like, oh, and he just walked away. He was all devastated. Yeah, that was me for a minute, bro. Moment there. And man, that was one of the few times in my life that I saw when I was sitting at that park. Because I had like a gym bag. I had a little bit of money. And this is back in the day when, well, I'll get to that a bit later. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, I'm sleeping at the fucking park, bro. That's when shit's, some serious stuff. So, sitting there, and I let it out. The first 2 days, I was like, damn, really disheartened, right? And then I was like, all right, man, I ain't going out like this. I ain't going out like no bitch. So I was like, all right, how the hell am I going to get out of this, I'm sitting there brainstorming. And I'll give you the step-by-step how this went down. Now, hopefully this can help someone, before it gets to that point. But I will say this, I don't do drugs or drink, so I know it probably looks like I do, but I don't know, I'm always thinking and just like excited about things that sometimes it messes with my sleep. I might have to start taking like melatonin. I think that's what I need to start doing. But anywho, when this happens, so if you have those problems, I don't know if this will work for you because I don't have those issues. And no disrespecting, but it's just that I don't want to, give a false hope or anything, That's the disclaimer. So, all right. So I'm trotting around, got my gym bag, going to the gym, because I still got my membership, blah, blah, blah. So keeping my hygiene up at least. But man, sleeping outside, you got shit crawling on you. That shit is gross, bro. And man, fuck. And so I'm eating like gas station sandwiches and shit. It's not the business. All right. So, all right. So here I go. Coming for plans. I started finding some gigs. And so I'd work bullshit ass jobs. One time, what I was doing, I was waiting in line for someone. So there was like a new product launch for some bullshit. I was waiting in line for Best Buy. So I was like, yeah, what you going? I was like, cool. And it's like, yeah, I camped out for you. I had no place to go, and I made like $200 for camping out for someone, right? So I was like, all right, whatever. So little shit like that I found. Then I was a taste tester for I'm not gonna name the company, but they were coming out with new burgers and stuff. So I went there and they were paying me $120 to do a taste test on 2 different burgers, right? So I ate one burger and then take a little bit of the other one, cause, and I got paid $120. Like stupid shit like that, right? So I was like, all right, how am I gonna do this? All right. And then I started washing dishes, and it's just wild because cats in those areas doing I don't really speak English, so I'm over here having a language barrier. But I'm like, all right, it's easy money. You get free food. I was like, all right, two birds, one stone. Get money and and food. So I was like, all right, I'm in there. So all right, I started doing that for a little bit. So I'm doing that, showing at the gym, and then thankfully they had an apron, like this like waterproof apron, so this way my clothes weren't all gross. And of course, you're using the laundromat to do laundry and shit. So I'm like, all right, cool, cool. Still sleeping outside, but I'm like, all right, all right. And then I'm not gonna say what town I was in, but I was close to a university, right? So I made friends with the security guards. Like, hey man, this is a situation. I ain't gonna cause no trouble, but I need to be up in here because they had a 24/7 study area. So I was like, all right, bet. So I started sleeping at the study area. The dude just looked at. I was like, oh yeah, and I'll have like a little backpack because I had a gym bag and the backpack, but the backpack was always in the gym bag because I didn't need it. And then I got a little spiral notebook, so it looks like I was studying. Like yeah. And then I would sleep there because there'd be other students sleeping there too. All right, and I'm like, oh yeah, and then freshen up, and then go about my day. But yeah, that came through in the clutch. So you got to look for resources and shit, right? So I'm stacking chips, and then I get a car, a bullshit ass car, a Ford Taurus, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's my mobile home for a little bit, right? And and that's when shit got a lot easier. But I mean, when you're doing then I could store my gym bag there, and I would keep it locally, right? Because I was able to get a bus pass and stuff for free. So parking in the central area, make sure it wasn't, and I'd move it here and there just a little bit, so it's not violating the 72-hour rule. Because if it's not moved, then someone might want to be like, oh, it's an abandoned car, blah 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 blah, right? So I always made sure it looked nice and it looked junky. So I made sure you know it didn't look like there was a much crap in there, right? The trunk was my friend, and then sometimes I would still sleep in the 24/7 study area, but I would also use the Taurus to sleep in there sometimes too. All right, but I'd keep that central located, take the bus most places, so I didn't, because that car was basically like a $500 special. So I didn't want to push my luck too much on that. And then take the bus to work, take the bus back to the car and shit. I stacked my chips up some more, and I did that for quite some time. And then just that grit, because man, that shit, whoo, when you're sitting there, when you're young, you see all your peers like coming up, and then you're like, damn, bro, how the hell did it come to this? Like, damn. And it's my own fault, you know. Even though I wasn't making any real money, it still doesn't absolve me of any responsibility. But then that was a wake call. Definitely put some hair on my chest. And then after working like some bullshit jobs, I actually ended up getting a real job. I won't say what it was, but it was a little office job or whatever. I was there for 6 years until the great layoff happened, right? Oh man. But I was thinking I was like sitting there, got to eat fucking ramen noodles and shit. It's like, damn, most people would have folded, but I was like, hell to the no, not I. I ain't going out like no bitch. That's last time, shit. That's the last thing that was on my mind, was going out like some bitch. So, dig deep, and I was able to beat it. But man, whoo, that shit put hair on my chest. And you're wondering, it gets them put two and two together. I can't really rely on some people like my mom and stuff. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything bad about her, but there's reasons. And then other people are going through some issues, so I can't really live with them. Plus, I was in a different state. It's like, so I had to make do. But I learned a lot though. On the positive side, man, I learned how to really budget money, even when you're not making any real money, and how to really live well below your means. I learned a lot of cool life skills from it. So that's the positive from it. And I eliminated a lot of false friends. And then, I was able to determine if that one bro I was messing with was worth trying to have something serious with. Well, when she dissed me like that, whoo, I knew. And always give a shout out to this one broad. She hooked me up. All right, so during the time when I was unhoused, as they say, right? this is back in the day when cell phones really didn't have like an MP3 player, and the cell phone I had anyway was a cheap ass Net 10 plastic piece of crap. I mean, I let's just say back then I think it was under. There was like a $40 phone that came with like 100 minutes or some shit like that. It was a real piece of shit. But whatever, that's what I had. All right, and I had a Game Boy Advance micro Game Boy Advance. So I was playing Final Fantasy Tactics Advance on that bitch and a couple other games. But so I had to. So Walmart was very kind to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were very kind to me. They somehow I was able to get a iPod Nano. I believe that's the one with the scroll wheel, the slimmest one with the scroll wheel. A nice green one, an exercise armband, some toiletries, and a couple other supplies, free of charge. Shout out to Walmart for that. I don't know how I got it free of charge, but it was free of charge. I paid $0 for that. But remember, I didn't have a laptop. And at the time, you need a program to add music to your iPod. And you can't use the library computer because you need a specialized program to do so. You can use iTunes, and there's iTunes alternatives, but you can't download it on like a library PC. So this girl hooked me up. And she took a big chance. Because think about it. When someone's down and out like that, and remember, this is back in the day where technology is a little expensive, right? She's going to borrow her laptop for the whole day. And I was like, I'm going to be at this coffee shop. And I'm going to be downloading music. And I'm going to download a separate program from your iTunes so it doesn't mess up your iPod. And she's like, okay. And I was there. And I kept my word. I was there at the coffee shop. Or the, you know. It's chilling, downloading music, using the YouTube MP3 converter, right? And then uploading it to the program, put it into the iPod. So I have my music, so I was good to go. You know, I spent at least like 6 hours doing that, right? And so I was down all this music, bam, 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 bam. So I finally had a playlist, man. Your boy didn't have tunes for a little bit there. Just sitting there, trying to do things without music, bro. That shit is insane. So she came through and she's like, you're here. I was like, yeah, I told you I was going to be here. She was a little shocked that I was still where I was going to be. I said I was, where I was going to be at, right? And so she's like, all right. And so because of that, I hooked her up. When I got back on my feet, I told you about that office job. And I started like buying and selling cars and shit. And so at one point I had 3 cars. I had a Ford ZX2, a Ford Escort ZX2 of 2003. And then I had an '04 Grand Prix. No. This is before the Grand Prix. So I had a 2002 Monte Carlo SS and then a 2000 Dakota RT. Because the reason why I went with these older cars, because I always kind of liked them. Plus, during this time frame, there were a lot of like shitty vehicles being made. They were just like whatever vehicles, It didn't take until about 2014 where like some better vehicles started coming out. Then I was like, all right, let me get one of those. So what I did, I think I only charged like $100 for the month to rent the Monte Carlo because she needed a car. So I was like, I got you. I mean, I can't do it for free. The girl was cool though. She was a wing woman for a little bit too. And then one time she did make a snide comment. She's like, I would never. She was talking all this shit. I said, girl, I was like, yo, if I really wanted to, I could smash. And she was like, I'd have to be really drunk. I was like, get the fuck out of here, But I wasn't trying to smash because, I know some people might look at me sideways, but when you know the history, with who she been with and stuff, I was like, yeah, I'm cool. But you don't help me, and you helped me get some broads, so I'm gonna show you some love. So that's how. So I always show her some love. We don't talk anymore. Life, different paths. I believe she had a kid and shit now too. So, whatever she's doing, wish her well. She hooked me up in my time of need, so I'll always be grateful for that. But yeah, even though it was a terrible time, and I always quote A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And don't get me wrong, I fucking hate that book. That dude's a fucking simp. He pulled some Commodore Norrington, from Pirates of the Caribbean, gonna give his life to some broad that's not even like his wife or Like what the like, bro? Some straight simp shit. What? Let me Google this shit right now. Hold on. I'm gonna look at that. Who's that? The guy himself, a tale of two cities. Who's this clown? Oh, Sidney Carton. Fucking chump, bro. Yeah, he swapped places with Charles Darnay. So Sidney gives his life so Darnay can escape the guillotine so that the woman he loves, Lucy Manette, can live a happy life with her husband and child. He goes to his death peacefully, delivering one of literature's most famous closing lines. It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known. Bro, ooh, just hearing it, man, reading that nonsense again, bro. I know this is different take on what the original topic of this video is, but man, I remember getting in trouble with the teacher for this shit. Cause I'm like, bro, this dude's a sucker. You know, I said it more tactfully than that. And then, the teacher pushes back. It's like, no, this dude's a clown. He's a fool. Like, why would he do that? Well, it's love, and sometimes you just sacrifice, and he redeems himself for to show that his life wasn't wasted. It's like, no, he just threw his life away like a fool. You ever heard of a woman throwing her life away like that? And then I got sent to the principal's office and I got in-school suspension. I'm just like, what kind of... This straight programming, bro. Trying to condition men to be simps. Like, the hell? Why would you do that? It's like I said, I brought up Commodore Norrington, right? Sacrificed his life. So, what's that broad's name? Keira Knightley's character in Pirates of the Caribbean could live. It's like, bro, clown shit, bro. That shit irritates the hell. Straight programming, man. Simp shit, bro. Simps ruining America. But I digress. Anyway, but yeah. So hopefully, take away from this video. If you ever find yourself in a situation, look for gigs. Don't do drugs. Keep a positive mindset. Look for solutions, man. Because, bro, if I didn't sit there with an optimistic mindset, would I have found like that 24/7 study area at the university and shit? You know what I mean? So you gotta think about these things. So hopefully I can help somebody out if you're going through a situation. I know a lot of people are kind of struggling right now. So that's why I want to bring that out there. But there'll be some more videos coming soon. Till next time, YouTube. The Terry McGinnis of this shit is signing out. Peace.